Canada's temporary foreign worker program has actually been called modern-day slavery by the UN. Or I believe the term that was used is that it's a breeding ground for contemporary slavery. And so this is one of the things that gets missed when we talk about the issues with the temporary foreign worker program. The people who are being brought here are victims. The people who are being brought here are being abused, not only by domestic Canadian employers, but by the recruiters in their home country that are extorting them tons of money to allow them the chance to come and work in Canada and then not get the wages that they're promised. Their visas are then dangled over their heads because if they complain, guess what? I'm kicking you out of the country. This system that we have right now is actually incredibly devastating. The problem is that a lot of the people who are speaking out against it are not doing so from a humanitarian perspective. So when we speak out against these programs, we can't just come at it from the perspective of, oh, these people are taking jobs. Because this will only end when we also address the humanitarian issue at play. This program is abusive, and it needs to end in its current form. We still need temporary foreign workers in a lot of industries, especially in targeted industries where we have a shortage. But even then, a lot of the farmhands that we bring over are abused and treated very poorly. We have to do better for all workers in Canada, citizens or other. This really pissed me off, and it's probably going to piss you off too. A Subway restaurant in Ontario is trying to hire a temporary foreign worker to fill out their assistant management role, paying the person $37 an hour for 35 hours of work per week. And they've submitted a labor market impact assessment to prove that they need to hire a temporary foreign worker as opposed to a domestic Canadian. This is a blatant abuse of the system. You're telling me you could not find an Ontario citizen who was not qualified and willing to get $37 an hour for that job. Bullshit. Education requirement, college. Experience, 7 months to less than a year. You're telling me you have to hire a temporary foreign worker for that position. For these responsibilities, you have to hire a temporary foreign worker at this hourly rate. That's $67,000 a year. That's higher than the median income of Ontario. And yeah, Campbellford, Ontario is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's not in a highly populated area. But you're telling me there was nobody that was within like an hour drive of here that was qualified and willing to work that job? And this is why so many Canadians are getting upset about immigration and temporary foreign workers. These corporations are abusing this system and taking jobs away from people in Canada who would be willing to work those jobs. But when this system gets abused, when the government allows for it to be abused, when corporations abuse these programs, that creates unnecessary tensions in our society, taking away jobs from Canadians who would be willing to work that work, and also making people feel as though they themselves are less valuable. Somehow there was nobody in the area who could possibly work that job. So you have to bring somebody in from a different country who's not even a citizen here, not even an immigrant here, not even a domestic-born Canadian here. You have to bring somebody else in to work this job. This well-paying, good job. This is absolutely insane. I just don't understand.
Guys, I want you to tell me something that I'm reading a lot about and I'm doing research and it's appearing on social media, but I want your feedback. I want all of you Canadians out there to tell me, when you walk into any business in Canada, do you feel that they're employing more temporary foreign workers, that they're employing more international students, that they're employing more non-permanent residents in Canada? Because first preference for any job in Canada should be for the citizens of the country, for Canadians. So tell me, and if you see this in your local businesses, list those businesses in the comments. I'd like to know the names of these businesses. It's just about finding the truth, right? There are a lot of businesses that are hiring temporary foreign workers. I would like to see the extent of what has been done so far, because the youth of this country deserve a job. Canadians deserve jobs first.
Illegal immigrants, the undocumented immigrants of this country, are not just doing the jobs you don't want to do. They're doing the jobs you physically don't have the skills to do. I have the proof, because in Florida, when all the mass deportations started and ICE agents were capturing all of these illegal immigrants and undocumented immigrants, putting them into cages at Alligator Alcatraz and places like that, the workforce dropped by 50%. Months later, that workforce has not actually gotten any better. In fact, it's gotten worse. If illegal immigrants were the ones stealing all of the jobs from American citizens, and American citizens would be doing those jobs if it wasn't for all the illegal immigrants that are criminals here in the United States illegally, then the workforce would be jumping back up and we would actually have projects moving forward in Florida. But we don't, because illegal immigrants, regardless of doing the jobs you don't want to do, illegal immigrants are actually doing the jobs that most Americans don't have the skill to do anymore. Because guess what? Illegal immigrants are doing labor and doing construction work in Florida, but it's still a skill. It still has qualities and it still has a bout of experience that you need by doing this work, and most Americans don't do this work. Illegal immigrants do, because they will literally come here and do the jobs you don't want to do. You want to be upset and claim that they stole your job, but illegal immigrants in this country are here just trying to provide a better way of life for their families. They are human beings. taking and detaining illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants on stolen land, putting them into cages, making them sit in their own feces for days at a time at Alligator Alcatraz is inhumane. And for all of you that sees this, please comment and repost and share this with as many people as possible. If you think that you have any justifications for locking up people that are just here trying to do a better thing for their families, you're a problem.
I'm past the point about caring about anyone's feelings when I say this, but we are now at a point where we are going to lose hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada because of Donald Trump's tariffs. We have over 4 million temporary residents in this country. Let me remind you, 50,000 students didn't show up to their first day of class because they fraudulently came into the country, said they were coming here on a student visa so they can come into the country, and now they're taking Canadian jobs. Now more than ever, we need mass deportations, and we need to slow down immigration because our economy cannot sustain the growth of immigrants coming in and the decline in the economy that's going to happen with the massive job losses. Deport, deport, deport.
The kids today are just struggling. The 20-year-olds, there's no jobs for them out there.
Who gets all the jobs?
The migrants. The companies get to hire the migrants. When they hire them, they pay them less. Okay? And also, they could get kickbacks from the government. I own a convenience store, for instance. I hire you, you're from India. Then I get an MLR9. I get to hire you, and basically what happens is I pay you $20 an hour. The government every 3 months gives me a 30% kickback. I was in Prince George, my hometown. The people at the movie theater, the lady was telling me she doesn't want to work here anymore because everyone she works with is Indian and they all speak Punjab. So she goes to work. She's a Canadian kid that grew up in a small conservative town that can't work in a place because no one that she works with actually speaks English because they come here and they don't speak English either. If you were that person that owned the movie theater and your cost of doing business were, 30% went straight into just hiring the kids, hiring employees. Now, if that 30% now to pay 60% of that 30% because you got that all back, you're going to make more money. So what do people do? They take care of themselves and their family. So they will hire those people because their family is going to get rewarded as a result.
The parasitic CBC, which receives $1.5 billion a year from the Canadian taxpayers to spit out absolute propaganda, is now applying to use the LMIA program. The LMIA program allows companies in Canada to apply to hire foreign workers over residents. It's abused like crazy, but if you have a high skill role and you run a Canadian company and you make the claim, I cannot fill a role with a Canadian, you can apply through the LMIA to hire a foreign worker instead. The CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which should be named the Canadian Pravda, Canadian Propaganda, because that's absolutely what it is. It's a total embarrassment. They applied last week for 20 roles through the LMIA, and you may say, oh, well, these are highly specialized roles. Maybe it's nearly impossible to find anybody to fit them. Guess what they are? The roles are roles like journalist, web designer, game night technician. These are roles that I can tell you definitively. I've worked in the sports industry for a decade. I can tell you definitively there are thousands of Canadians that would be head over heels to get these roles at the CBC. You know what the CBC is doing? They're saying, we're not hiring Canadians, we're hiring foreigners. No story is a better encapsulation of how traitorous and subverted the CBC has become against the Canadian view. How can it even be legal? I can understand. I think what's happening at Tim Hortons and Wendy's and the like, where all you see is foreign workers in there, is I can understand it. If you're running a private business and the government is putting these ridiculous programs out there to say, we'll pay 50%, we'll pay 75% of the salary if you're willing to hire a foreign worker instead of a Canadian. As a private business owner, I blame the government. I don't blame the Tim Hortons or the Wendy's. But for the CBC to be taking advantage of this program and not hiring Canadian employees when they take $1.5 billion a year from the Canadian taxpayer. In the year 2024, the CBC fired 600 Canadian employees at the same time as they handed out massive bonuses to 20 senior executives. This is disgusting. The CBC should not be receiving one more red cent from the Canadian taxpayer. Now, in addition to being the propaganda outlet they are, check out the CBC.ca. It's literally talking points from Liberals. Liberals deliver them their talking points to say, and that's what they do. There's no debate. The one somewhat conservative reporter that they used to have, Travis Donraj, was summarily fired from his job. I highly suggest that you read the article that he wrote, because it's so clear. It's what we can all see, any of us who watch the CBC on a daily basis, but you're essentially not allowed to cover conservative or right-wing politicians in a positive light whatsoever. But the CBC is now going out. They did 20 LMIA applications to hire a web designer, a journalist, a technician. There's about 6 or 7 roles they're looking to fill. None of them, I can tell you with 100% certainty, that none of them are roles that could not be filled by Canadian citizens. I can tell you that with 100% certainty. Yet that's what the CBC is doing. And you know what it is? It's ideological capture. It's the only reason. They literally hate Canadians. The left wing has been trained to hate Canadians, as Justin Trudeau would say, old stock Canadians, and they actually prefer to bring in foreigners. It's very similar to why the government prefers to bring so many immigrants, because immigrants aren't going to criticize them. There's study after study after study that shows that immigrants do not criticize the government, are very likely to give backlash to any of the ridiculous policies that are being implemented, while Canadian citizens are likely to do so. This should be front page news. We need to get this blasted far and wide. The CBC, receiving $1.5 billion a year from the Canadian taxpayer, is now hiring foreign workers over Canadians to save themselves some small percentage of money to pay their senior executives out big bonuses. Enough is enough. This is goddamn ridiculous. This cannot continue like that. They are literally robbing our money and destroying the country. They're probably the biggest reason the Liberals got elected. The level of propaganda being spewed out of that outlet night after night after night, and a large percentage of Canadians buy it hook, line, and sinker. It's disgusting. We need to fight to take Canada back. I'm hosting a rally Saturday, September 13th, Parliament Hill, noon. Take Canada back. Please reach out to me if you're interested in more information. I want to get tens of thousands of patriotic Canadians out there. If you're interested in becoming a member, hit that join button. Please like, subscribe. Really appreciate the support. And if you're watching on TikTok, I'm over 12,000 subscribers now, and the Canadian government is not a big fan of dissidents. So make sure you're following on YouTube, youtube.com/@FightForCanada 2025. Canadian patriots are taking this country back.
Canadian companies, or rather Canadian employers, are increasingly faking labor market assessment documents, and this they are doing so that they can be able to hire foreign workers over Canadian citizens. Just so you know, this fraudulent act by these Canadian employers who choose to cheat just to acquire workers from the TFW program, their fraudulent acts end up disadvantaging both the immigrants coming in the TFW program and the Canadian citizens. And this is how it does. It disadvantages Canadian citizens by making sure that it limits the number of jobs available to Canadians. So Canadians are left with less job opportunities or job vacancies. On the other hand, it disadvantages immigrants coming in the TFW program in Canada by underpaying these immigrants and exploiting them for cheap labor. So if at all these citizens of Canada are not benefiting, and the Canadian and the immigrants are also not benefiting, then why is the TFW program of any benefit, and why is the government of the day defending it? Canadians are left blaming immigrants for taking their jobs, and on the other hand, immigrants are left blaming Canadians for being racist. So all that in this video. Let's talk about it.
Temporary foreign workers account for 19% of Canada's private sector workforce. And this is a huge problem for multiple reasons. Let's break the economics of this down. First off, don't say anything racist, because that's not the problem. And listen, you can blame Trudeau all you want, but Carney is lowering immigration numbers. So right now we currently have about 3 million temporary residents in Canada. 1.5 million of them are work permit holders, and 640,000 of them are study permit holders. These last two numbers I don't really care about. Family members and asylum seekers, not my concern. And just for perspective, Ontario alone has over 500,000 international students. And this is because Doug Ford cut funding to colleges and universities, and they were forced to go to international students in order to stay in operation. So what are the economic impacts of this? You're seeing a lot of young people, a lot of new grads, a lot of university students unable to get jobs. Why? Because there are so many temporary foreign workers in those roles. Here's the thing. This is not blaming immigrants. This is not blaming other people for this problem. This is the free market at work. If you as a private sector employer can pay a domestic Canadian $17 an hour, or you can pay an international student $15 an hour, who are you going to hire? So we shouldn't be bringing in temporary foreign workers at all when there are domestic Canadians who are willing to do those jobs. And guess what? If domestic Canadians aren't willing to do those jobs, then that means that the wages are too low, which once again is not a failure of government, but a failure of the private sector. If 20% of private sector jobs are going to international permit holders, then that means that the private sector is shortchanging Canadians by 20% of roles. When unemployment is hovering around 7%, you cannot say that there are not Canadians willing to do that work. They're just unwilling to do that work at the low wages that you want to pay them. And in a fair supply and demand capitalist society, you should not be able to import workers from other countries and abuse them for low wages. And that's why I say time and time again, you can be against the amount of international students we have and the amount of immigrants that we were bringing in and not have it be a right-wing racist thing. They are very much left-wing socioeconomic arguments for lowering immigration numbers. But if the government doesn't start to address people's concerns, they are going to start making the lowest common denominator arguments. They are going to start thinking and saying racist things, and that is going to lead us to a very, very difficult place politically.
Take a little listen to this. So last night I went on to the Job Bank of Canada and I was looking around in there and I came across a section called temporary foreign workers. So I clicked on it and there is over 4,000 jobs that are posted in the temporary foreign workers category. So what's happening is these employers are stating that they've tried to fill positions. It's called a labor market impact assessment. So that's something like that they file or whatever. So they're claiming that they've tried to hire Canadians, they can't. So now these job postings are for the foreign workers. So when I went into them, it was kind of interesting to see. For example, I'll share something with you. Okay, so here we have the website, the temporary foreign workers. I have it circled, and then that's 4,264 results. And yeah, there's going to be things on there like farm work and different stuff, but there's also a lot of other jobs that basically anybody could qualify for. And the fact that they're saying that nobody is applying and they can't fill the position with anybody who has the right skills for the job blows my mind. So I'm going to show you an example. So here we have an elementary school teacher. Okay, so what they're saying is out of all these people that I know who have went to teachers college and who are temporarily doing substitute teaching right now just to get their foot in the door because they can't land a full-time position as a teacher, they're going to tell me that they can't fill this position with anybody who's Canadian? That doesn't make any sense, because I know people who are waiting to get a teacher's position and they're doing stuff like volunteering on sports teams and stuff like that to get their foot in the door. So they've posted jobs like this stating, you know, that they can't find anybody. There was also another one on there. Well, there's severals on there. It's not just like I said, there was even a Subway one, $36 an hour. You're trying to tell me they can't find somebody to work for $36 an hour at Subway? I find that hard to believe when so many people, including myself, have been actively applying to all these places. So here's the other half of that, and I'm gonna read over this. So it's pending labor market impact assessment. So it's pending. So what they do, like I said, is they say that they couldn't fill it with any Canadians, and then they put it up for the foreign workers, and then the employers get special incentives for it, right? Many different programs, many different things, many different whatever. So here we're going to explain it. It says right here, the employer could not find a Canadian worker for this job and applied for a labor market impact assessment to hire a temporary foreign worker. Canadian workers, including Canadian citizens and permanent residents, are still encouraged to apply. Now, if you go on the website, the Job Bank website, you can take a look at all these jobs. And you can see exactly what jobs are hiring for these temporary foreign workers. And you yourself will see that these are all jobs that could be filled. And they need to do like undercover shit where they get somebody to go in and ask to look at resumes and blah, blah, blah. And see how many Canadians are applying for these jobs, but then they're acting like they're not, so they have to resort to hiring foreign workers only. But then that way they do that to get in on the special incentives from the government, kickbacks, maybe help with wages, whatever. They have so many different programs. So that is what's going on. People don't realize it, but there is stuff like this that's going on. There's some sneaky shit, so they can try and get around it and get away with it. Like, I don't know. This is all across Canada. There's different jobs available everywhere, but I find it hard to believe that you can't find a student even to work at Subway, McDonald's. Like, there were so many different postings. Take a look if you have a minute. Go on the Job Bank and take a look. You can go into the foreign workers section. You can go into Ontario. You can go into the Job Bank for everybody. Like, there's so many different sections on it. But that's what's happening. That's how they're getting away with this and getting around it. I've even heard stories about people wanting a job so bad that they've taken a deal and they're offering to work for a cheaper wage. Like, for example, oh, I really, really need this job. What if I do it for $12 an hour? People say that ain't happening, but I've heard some stories, and yeah, they may be stories, they may be lies, who knows, and there's even people who do hiring in HR and stuff who are speaking out, telling like the different things that are going on. But then there's so many people who are brainwashed saying it's not happening and that these things aren't happening. Like, that right there shows you. Go take a look. Go on the website and see the job postings they have for these foreign workers, and they're claiming they can't find Canadians to work those jobs. I don't buy it for 1 minute.
Hello brothers and sisters, and welcome to yet another insightful video. I hope you're doing fine wherever you're tuning in from. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk about something very obvious. As we all know, there is so much tension that has been brewing between the Canadian population, the Canadian citizens, and the immigrants that are coming in through the TFW program. And we all know that it's not these immigrants' fault that Canadians are facing inadequacy of jobs. And also, we all know very well that it's not Canadians' fault or the citizens' fault that immigrants are facing this bitterness from the Canadian citizens. We all know that it's neither party's fault. But one thing stands out, or one thing is clear when all this is going on, that the situation that is currently going on is something that has been enabled by the government. It's something that the government knows very well it's going on, and the government has decided not to do something about it. Immigrants are now calling Canadians racists. I do know and I believe that Canadian people are not racists. If anything, it's just the bitterness that they have, the bitterness rooting from a government that is failing them. A government that most Canadians did elect, but currently it's failing them today more than ever in history. So as I was scrolling through social media, I came across some videos that try to explain the whole situation or the whole incident that is going on in the Canadian job market scene. Why is this drama going on? I found the videos insightful and thought it would be wise, if at all, I'd share the videos with you. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to share the videos with you. We're going to watch them. And please, as you watch them, do watch them with a very keen ear and try to understand them. Because I do believe by understanding them, you'll get to have some opinion. And I'd also want to know what your thoughts are concerning all this that's going on. Please tell me what you think about all these in the comment section, and I'd be really glad to read what your comments are. It's a very uncomfortable conversation, but I believe we should be talking about such uncomfortable conversations. It's through having such kind of talks that we get to reach a consensus and we get to experience and have change. Anyway, without wasting any time, let's get straight into the video, and then thereafter we'll come back and have a brief discussion about. Well, there you have it. There you have it, brothers and sisters. Now, from what we've just seen, or from what we've just understood from these videos, Canadians are disadvantaged, and immigrants are also disadvantaged. So if at all the two parties are disadvantaged, then that only leaves me asking, who is in to benefit from this TFW program? If at all both Canadians and the temporary workers from abroad are exploited, or if at all of them are disadvantaged. We get to see these TFW program workers back in their countries. They're charged to go to Canada or to enter Canada. They are charged. Back in my country, I've seen agents charging people very high rates. It's like some sort of bribe. You have to bribe those work agents. We have agents that do link a worker to, let's say, to an employer in this TFW program. So these agents do exploit these immigrants coming in through the TFW program. And remember, that kind of money or that kind of bribe, it's so unnecessary. It's not something that it should be done. It's even an illegal payment. If anything, it's just like I've called it initially, it's a bribe. They have to bribe those agents with so much money before they even secure these chances. And remember, these are workers from third world countries, so they do anything to escape that third world situation in their country or back home. So they do pay those bribes. Some even do sell land or sell property to pay the bribe so that they can come over to Canada just to get a better life. Just to get a chance in a first world country, they have to do that, or they have to go through that. And then on reaching in this first world country, which is Canada in this case, they get underpaid or exploited. But look at it also this way. In some countries, let's say like Indians coming from India, they are underpaid, but they receive the pay smiling, because if anything, it may be an underpayment, but it's definitely better than what they have to offer or what India has to offer them. So they take the payment smiling and they're happy about it, because back home they could not receive such kind of pay because they are just from third world conditions. But the fact still remains that they are getting exploited by these employers and by the Canadian government, because the government knows that this is going on, yet it's doing nothing about it. The Canadian employers use this way as a way of maximizing their profits. And yes, at the end of the day, they end up maximizing their profits, but at the expense of these immigrants who have come to Canada to look for a better future. On the other hand, the Canadian citizen ends up being exploited or being jobless. Actually, they end up being jobless. Most of them can't find the usual jobs they would have found probably 20 years ago. The job market is currently screwed. It's so bad. The joblessness is so bad. And you can see it all over the internet. You cannot scroll through your TikTok without coming across a Canadian ranting about joblessness. Anyway, I don't know how all these, how things came to this, but I definitely know that it reached here all because of design. It was designed to happen this way. Somebody is behind all this. There's a force behind all this that's going on. Anyway, you've watched the video. Please let me know what your thoughts are, because you've heard what my thoughts are, and I'd really want to know what you think about all this that's going on. Tell me in the comment section and let's have a conversation. Let's keep the talk going, and I believe hopefully with time we'll get to reach a consensus and reach a meaningful conclusion. Otherwise, that's it from me for today. I'd really want to thank you for watching the video, and also thank my loyal supporters who do come back each and every time to watch a video I upload. Thank you, and may God bless you.